Good evening. They told me Hyderabad traffic is not that bad, but I think otherwise. I see faces around the table here and across, and I think people are more learned than what I'm sitting here and doing. I see a lot of formal stalwarts with whom I've worked, a lot of my colleagues here. Disruptions in HR, right? And I was talking to my boss the other day, and when we were trying to make the next year's goal, and he said that HR tries to be more disruptive than it should be. Another function, finance, doesn't try to be so disruptive, IT doesn't want to be disruptive. HR people have in their DNA, right? They want to try out new things, they read a book and want to try it out. I don't know whether it's true or false. So to start this, I like to do the following, and if it's okay with you, I want each table to think of one disruption, one big HR disruption which they were a part of it, or somebody on the table worked on it. Just one key disruption, and we'll try to define disruption. Disruption is not implementing a project, disruption is having an impact, a business impact on something that got changed and really changed. And when I say impact, it has to be of significant magnitude. All of you are with me? So next 2 minutes, let's take at the tables, and then we go across the tables and ask what was the biggest HR disruption that one of you worked on. Is that okay? Is it clear? Each table, one big, you discuss and come back with one big HR disruption that you think you worked on. Great.
See, when you have an unionized organization where union really has their say, implementing any or bringing about any change has a fair amount of resistance from the unions.
Absolutely.
So, and there's no rhyme or reason why they will be disrupting it, and there's no straitjacket formula how to address the issues which keep on coming. So what needs to be done, each and every issue, when it comes, it has to be tackled. You take case by case.
So what you're saying is,
Absolutely, a lot
and
of
it can have
manner
a lot of
wastage.
business impact.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And if you do it well, nobody asks you, yeah? There's no kudos for doing it well.
I think similar to what I've been part of the earlier company wherein we had been part of a restructuring exercise. It was similar to what he's just mentioned. And if we don't deal it properly, as you rightly mentioned, there's a lot of impact on the ground. So the project had to move forward. If the project had to move forward, HR as a function had to deliver on that within a particular timeline.
Sure.
So if those things didn't happen, so the whole thing would have collapsed. So I think I've been part of that kind of, if you call it as restructuring as a disruption, but I would rather call it as more of streamlining rather than any disruption. But yes, if it didn't handle properly,
then
yes,
it would be a disruption.
it would have been a disruption.
And I think you're right. Perhaps we undermine the power.
Work with HSBC as HR generalist. I think moving away from heap of personalized files to digitization is the biggest disruption that we have dealt with, and we're still dealing with. And we've moved digitization. We've moved to digitization of letters, personal files, and then we need any information, and then people moving from one city to another city, and then transferring files and finding the data at the right time was the biggest challenge.
So can I ask you a question? How
Yeah.
much time did it take?
10,000 employees.
Yes.
And then personal files, all the papers are not in place, and then some, papers are not available and all. So it took about an year to digitize all the files, and we're still in the process.
And it is the beginning of a disruption, because if you don't have digital data, you can't have a shared services and you can't build on top. You want to
Absolutely.
add? One of you worked on shared services.
The term called disruption for some reason brings a very negative connotation to the mind, because disruption means disturbing something that is going in a normal course, going properly and all that. But actually, if you look at the way corporate world looks at the word disruption, or if you talk about HR, disrupt HR, or business disrupt, or disrupt business, whatever, it is getting more of a positive term, and that's what I wanted to set as a context here. People are looking at disruption to improve. If I'm allowed to say, I would say, in the past, if you look at the last decade, we were talking more about change. Probably now disruption is the next level of change. If I look at, certain change managements, several of you would have experienced, change was more of either a reaction or a response. we either react to what the competitors did or what our peers were doing, or we were responding to the market. And it was always coming from one or two or few directions. But if you look at disruption, it is more proactive in nature. Organizations already taking a step, predicting that this is the way it would happen. And I will talk more about this as we progress, and there's a reason why I'm saying this. And disruption comes from multiple directions. It doesn't come from one direction. So, on that context, if I again go back to the shared services example, maybe we'll have to also look at the demand. I mean, no longer, we are at a stage where, we decide, to tell customers what they need. I think they are at a position where I will again talk more on this, they decide. So I think especially when we design a shared services model, and when we talk about disruption, apart from internal customers, my submission would be we also have to keep the end user in mind.
Exactly. Thank you.
Successful.
Thank you. Can we give him a big hand, please? Operational. If you don't do it, your HR people will never grow. They'll just keep on wasting their time taking out data, making sure data is right, making mistakes, correcting the mistakes. And I think these small disruptions are also important to create a big disruption. And that is the point she was trying to make. Thank you so much.